Welcome to Beyond the Corporate Mask with Suzanne Assam and Emma Templing, a podcast with honest conversations about work, presence, and the parts of ourselves we've been told to hide. Do you ever stand in front of the mirror and think to yourself, you look tired, you should try harder? Why are you still struggling with this? Or, maybe you're in the middle of a meeting and you think to yourself, no, don't say it. It'll sound stupid. They'll think that you don't belong here. That voice, that is your inner critic. And your inner critic is brutal.
Yeah, and this is not just negative thinking. This voice can become so loud that you cannot react in the way you want to react. It might cause you to stop doing the things you want to do. You stop trying to achieve your goals because that voice is telling you, you won't succeed anyway. Or it will cause you to do things in a way you don't want to do them.
Yeah, and that's what we're diving into today. Where does that inner critic come from? How does it show up in your thoughts, your body, your voice? And what can you do to navigate this?
Yeah. So your inner critic didn't appear out of nowhere. Most of us develop this inner voice during your childhood. Maybe from a parent who said, hey, that could be better. Or a teacher who corrected you in front of the class. I had that, by the way. Or a friend who rolled her eyes when you showed emotion. Every experience that added onto that feeling established your inner critic and made it stronger and louder. So little by little, your nervous system learned, hey, if I correct myself first, maybe I won't get hurt or embarrassed.
Yeah, exactly. The inner critic truly began as a type of protection. It tells you, if I do all the right things, I won't be rejected. But that may be something that kept you safe back then, but now it gets in your way.
Yeah, and we will go into that, how it gets in your way. But maybe it's also good to mention something else, because indeed it develops in your childhood. But we also need to understand that anyone who is outside the dominant culture or the dominant group,
right,
like, for example, women in a male-dominated environment or people of color, any minority group often gets an extra dose of correction because they hear in society, you need to be polite, but not too direct. You need to be ambitious, but not too visible. Or, for example, you need to be strong, but not too much. You need to fit in.
Yeah.
So these double standards really, fuel the critic's voice. And this is not your fault, but it is important to, understand where it comes from.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm thinking, once we understand how this inner voice develops, right? We understand it develops from an early age, your conditioning, your environment. But what does that then look like in practice? Is that inner critic, that voice, is it the same for everyone, or can it maybe differ?
Yeah, no, it's definitely not the same for everyone. It's not a one size fits all. It can really take different shapes, different voices. So in another episode, we have already talked about the imposter, which is a very special inner critic. But there are also more examples of what your inner critic can sound like. So to give you a couple of examples, we have the perfectionist. The voice then can say, hey, it has to be flawless. You're not good enough yet. That's really the perfectionist talking to you. But then we also have something that we can call something as the shame whisperer, that can say, what will they think of you when you do this? They will find out that you don't belong in this group.
Yeah.
And then we also have that harsh motivator, That one that says, hey, push harder. No time for Felix. Hup, come on. And then we have the one that doubts, the doubter, that could say, hey, what if you're wrong? Are you sure you're going to do this? What if they don't take you seriously? Better keep quiet. Should you be really doing this? So and of course there are more, but these are very common voices that people can hear as their inner critic. And I can give you an example for myself. And maybe this is a little bit the doubter. So I was, a couple of years ago, I sat at the hairdresser when I heard a woman sitting next to me say, hey, I just walked past a co-working space on the Javastraat. And then immediately felt like, that's my place. And immediately my stomach tightened. I even had that flash of, a little bit of blushing. And even before she said anything more, my mind had already filled it in. And my inner critic was saying, she probably thinks it's lame. It sucks. But then a couple of seconds later, she added, it really looked nice there. But then my mind instantly jumped to a new track saying, if I say it's mine now, then everyone thinks I'm so full of myself. So what did I do? I stayed quiet. I didn't say anything.
Oh, this is so recognizable.
You recognize that? What about you?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I've had this as well. I even had it like the other day. I got a client who called me, and the moment I saw that name pop up on my phone, like a client calling me, I was immediately already like, something's wrong. And I picked up, and she explained. She just said, next week I would like to have a meeting with you about the content you delivered because we got some feedback on it from our marketing team. And let me tell you, this wasn't news. Like, they had already indicated that whatever content I had provided them with was going to go past their marketing team, and they were going to have a look at it, and they were going to have feedback. But the moment that she said it, she said, I want to discuss some feedback with you. I immediately thought, oh my God, it's not good enough. It's wrong. I did everything wrong. I'm going to have to start over, or they're going to fire me. And immediately went down that spiral, which in hindsight, I knew that I was going to receive this feedback. I knew that this was going to happen. And maybe it's positive. Maybe it's positive feedback. I don't even know.
Yeah.
Oh,
and it's funny because when you mentioned that and then said, and people cannot see you, but I literally see what happens in your body, that you tighten, you make yourself smile, you have that gasp of air. And it's really, we also need, I think, to understand that this inner critic is really a master of disguise. Because sometimes this voice can sound like my mother. And sometimes it can be like that strict teacher that I had in high school. But sometimes it's also a sharper, harsher version of myself. So it can come in a lot of forms.
For me, it's my father sometimes.
And you know what also, I wanted to say funny, but it is not funny at all. But it can be a voice that can be really stern and also very subtle and pretending to be helpful.
Oh, yes. Oh, this is so true. And this is also where it gets tricky, right? Because that little voice will start speaking up, for example, when you're like in a meeting, and it can come out as if you're just being polite, right? So that moment that you then speak up, you might start with, oh, I'm so sorry to interrupt. Or, maybe this is a silly question, but, or I'm sure it's not good enough yet, but, here's my draft. Or you can make your point, you can state your opinion, say what you're thinking, but then you finish off with, oh, I'm not sure if that makes sense, you know? Like,
yeah, that is
God.
the inner voice or the inner critic at its best, I think.
I think so too.
And yeah, I mean, this is a very good point, because this is how it can show up. And maybe this is also a good sign to start recognizing when it happens, because it's not just about what the inner critic says, it is also what it does to you. It makes you second guess, rewrite every sentence in your head, or even swallow your emotions. And yeah, and I'm sure people recognize this as well. Sometimes it can keep you stuck for days, replaying one tiny moment that's already long gone, but you keep replaying it over and over again in your head.
Yeah. And you know what makes it extra difficult is that over time, this little voice will start to sound so familiar that you completely stop noticing that it's even there. But even if you don't notice it, it does impact your behavior, your presence, the impact you try to make, even when you don't even recognize it.
Yeah, I think this is a very good point, because it becomes indeed so familiar, because you know this voice and you don't sometimes even pay attention to it. But even, when you don't pay attention to it, it really does impact your behavior and indeed also your presence, the connections you have with other people.
Yeah.
And maybe what is also important to realize is that this critic does not just live in your head, it also lives in your body. It can grab hold of your body. For me, and I refer back to that example when I was sitting there at the hairdresser, my heart rate goes up quickly. It's as if all the energy goes up there and my face turns red, and then I have that shock reaction. It's definitely also something that lives in your body.
Yeah, I recognize this, because for me, it's kind of like this icy, cold, painful feeling in my throat and my chest. And then, or the feeling that my heart sinks a little bit deeper into my body.
Yeah. And this is rooted in neuroscience and biology. The inner critic is initially developed to help you survive, to be safe.
Right.
And the physical sensation that you feel is a trigger that indicates, hey, you're not safe. You should do something about that. And funnily enough, this bodily reaction is therefore something that shows up before the voice of your inner critic shows up.
Right.
So your inner critic is simply your brain trying to make sense of that physical trigger and then creating a story of what might be the cause of that unsafety.
Yeah.
So this is really important. So it starts with the bodily sensation. That is a trigger, and then your brain starts taking it over by making stories out of it. And that's that inner voice, that inner critic. So if you're able to calm your nervous system before your brain wants to start making sense of this bodily sensation, then your inner critic will never be so loud.
Right. Yeah, this makes sense. It's like your body is giving a physical alarm that goes off to indicate, hey, you're not safe. And then your brain wants to make sense of it. And that's when that inner critic shows up. So in that sense, if you recognize those physical sensations in time and manage to calm yourself down before that inner voice starts talking to you, you can actually quiet it, right? But then I wonder...
Yeah, this is exactly...
This is it, right? Yeah. But then I have a question.
This is it, yeah.
Because what do you do if that voice is already there and it won't shut up? If you don't recognize those physical sensations on time and that inner critic, you know, is just already there. What then?
Yeah. Well, good question. But here the key is always your body. Because the worst thing that you can do is to start arguing with that inner voice.
That's what I always do.
But this is what we always do. We tell that voice to shut up. We tell it's not true what you're saying. I am good enough. You're lying. But that makes that voice only louder. So instead, when that voice is really loud, you can try this. First, you need to identify where in your body do you feel this sensation. Locate the feeling in your body and then put your hand on it. So for me, for example, I turned red, so I can put my hand on my cheek. And then what I do is I say, and that does not have to be out loud, I turn red. And what we do there is we name it to tame it. And by doing this, you give attention to the feeling, you acknowledge it, and this already calms down your nervous system so much, because once you pay attention to what you're feeling physically, those feelings can start to dissolve. So that's what you do first, and then you continue to calm your nervous system by centering yourself.
Yeah, and what I'm realizing now is that when you practice this, you actually stop paying so much attention to that voice, right? Because when you're focusing on the physical sensation in your body, that is where your focus goes. And wherever your focus goes, that is also where your energy goes. So by practicing doing this, you actually already silence that inner critic automatically.
Yeah, exactly. You're doing two things here, indeed. You're focusing on that bodily sensation, and then that feeling dissolves. And at the same time, you're not giving any or a lot of attention to that inner critic. Yeah.
Which will help you quiet that voice.
Yeah. And here are some experiments to play with that can also help. So first it's really good to, and we have already mentioned this, but it is really good to spot the critic's entry line. So notice how often you start with, I'm sorry, but I think blah, blah. Stop that. So first notice it, pause, and then drop the apology and speak anyway. So yeah, it's really good to start noticing your critic's entry line.
Yeah, I'm guilty of this one. I'm definitely going to practice this one in the coming days.
Yeah, and the other thing that I would like to invite you to practice with is name it to tame it. When you feel the tension, when you feel the sensation, for example, my jaw is tight, my breath is high, say it out loud. My jaw is tight. Because naming separates sensation from story. And then the third thing that you can experiment with is show compassion to your critic. Instead of fighting it, try saying quietly to this voice, thank you for looking out for me. I've got this now. Because a simple acknowledgement really softens that voice and helps you move on. And the somatic practice that can come with it is really visualize that you put that voice on your left hand. And what also helps, I jokingly said, sometimes that voice is my mother, sometimes it's a teacher, but actually it's really good to visualize that person that represents that voice for you. Put that voice on your left hand, in your palm, and then look at it and literally say, thank you for taking care of me. I don't need you anymore. And then literally close your hand. And then, you physically also quiet that voice by doing this somatic practice.
Yeah, I think that's a really good tip. You really visualize also silencing that inner critic in that way.
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to try that out. So I do think it's important to remember that, the inner critic, it will never fully disappear. But that's okay. It's a part of you that once worked very hard to keep you safe. But right now, you are no longer that child who needed to self-correct to survive. So you can thank the critic and then choose another voice. This was Beyond the Corporate Mask, powered by Doors Open, Institute for Corporate Sociology. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channels and share this episode if anything resonated with you today. See you next time.
Leadership doesn't have to be exhausting. If you need to pause, reconnect with your body, and experience how embodied leadership can help you make clearer decisions, hold boundaries, and lead without hiding yourself, join us for the next edition of the Embodied Leadership Retreat. Details are in the show notes.
You've been listening to Beyond the Corporate Mask. Remember, your body has the answers. So let's start unpacking who you are and who you're ready to become.